Hey everyone, welcome back to the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast. I was able to watch a documentary called Free Puppies, and it's from directors Christina Thomas and Samantha Wishman, and it deals with a group of rescuers in the tri-state area down south, the Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee area, and it's about their efforts to relocate excess populations of dogs and some cats from the south to the north, where it is easier to get these animals adopted. Because in the south there are not a lot of no-kill shelters, and there is an excess of animals for many reasons that are talked about in the documentary. I think if you're an animal lover at all, this is a documentary that you probably want to watch. If you're a dog owner specifically, you really do probably want to check it out. It's going to be video on demand on December 13th, so it'll be on your iTunes, Amazon, places like that, where you can watch it. It's just over an hour long. It's not too much of your time, but what the issues that they're highlighting are super important for animal lovers everywhere. So watch it. Also, I was able to interview directors Samantha Wishman and rescuer Monda Wooten, who is the central figure they follow around in the documentary, for a few minutes the other day. And they're both great. So check out, listen to that interview. If you're listening to this, if you're watching my face, it's going to come up right after this. So go ahead and watch as I talk to those two. And definitely check out Free Puppies wherever you can find it on demand. We've got a lot of films to talk about still coming up. It's the end of your crush. We're going to get there. So don't forget to like us, follow us on social media at VS Movie Podcast. You know how that works. But until we talk to you again, enjoy this interview with Samantha Wishman and Monda Wooten. And we will talk to you all later. Monda, let me start with you. I said this is interrupting my day job. You have 2 day jobs.
Oh, honey, I have several jobs.
You're a city council woman. You own a business, and you have the side hustle of shipping dogs from the south to the north. Was that ever? At what point did you figure out that this is my life now?
Well, first of all, let me point out that the what I do with animals is not a job. It doesn't really pay. the other
it
thing,
pays in licks and love.
Yes, it does. The other things allow me to do this. The other jobs allow me to do this. So, I'm sorry. What was the question?
When did you realize that this is now your life?
Well, you don't, I can promise you this. You don't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to be an animal rescuer. You don't wake up and say that, I promise you. It's kind of something you just work your way into, and then before you know it, you're doing it. But it's very rewarding. It's mentally, financially, it's very stressful. But it's rewarding too. It's rewarding. And I was talking to my husband this morning, and I told him, I was telling him how tired I was because I had a real long day yesterday. I took 25 animals I transported them to a low-cost spay neuter clinic, which is 2 hours away, but, and brought them back, and there was some pretty big dogs on there. And, my back was hurting, and I was telling him what all I had to do today. And he said, well, you choose to do that. You choose to do that. And I sat there for a minute, and I said, yes, I do. And you know what? I love it. I feel like I have made a big difference. And I got to thinking about, it was just me and the animals. And then I have this little, I call him my handyman. He works for me, does all this odd stuff for me. And so he went with me to help me pull on the big dogs. And, it was just us. There wasn't a lot of people that saw it. There wasn't a lot of people involved. There was the people at the clinic and of course the vet, and then the people that had the animals that were on the transport, except for the cats that I trapped. out of a cat colony. But you know what? It made a difference. It made a big difference. There's no telling how many litters that I have saved just from that one trip. And it made me feel good. It makes me feel good about myself. I think that I'm helping my community. I'm helping my neighbors, my family. I think I'm setting a good example for my children. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to make the world a better place.
You are indeed doing that, all of those things. Samantha, co-director of Free Puppies. Are you a documentary filmmaker at heart, or is this documentary something that just kind of fell into your lap and you did? Are you going to keep doing documentaries, or are you the next Spielberg, or Catherine Bigelow, or
No, my background is in law and nonfiction. So I documentaries were in some ways a natural path, but I don't have a film background. My first foray was I wrote and produced a short film, and that kind of got me in the door, I think, in terms of filmmaking. And then this was my first feature film that I directed with a woman, Christina, who is not here, but she and I were down there together for a couple of years on and off. But no, my passion is really, I would say, storytelling to make the world a better place. And this was such a great opportunity to do that because, like Monda said, there is so much work to be done. And the thing that I think really appealed to me about telling this particular story, and you could hear it and what Monda was saying, is that she's so focused on making change and really figuring out how to be most effective at making that change. So there are she's gone through a number of different ways to make her community better, from fighting with, the local government, becoming part of it, working, figuring out the most effective way to kind of reform local ordinances, to setting up the low-cost spay neuter clinic, to education. I mean, there are just numerous examples of positive ways to make a difference through this issue of dog rescue. And I think you see all of that happening in the film and through all the work that she's doing. And that is where, for me, the passion comes in. I focus on, social change, community change. And I think this is just a very inspiring way to see that kind of change happening, both in her community and also nationally. I mean, I came in as an adopter from the North, and there are so many dogs, as we know, and organizations across the country, into Canada and internationally as well. And everyone working together on this issue, I think, is something that we could learn from in different areas.
In the documentary, it's mentioned that the Hurricane Katrina is really what kind of kicked off the migration type, the mass export of animals, because so many were put out of their homes and lost or just couldn't go back with their owners and whatnot. How did we wind up how was Monda and her efforts in Georgia selected? I mean, did you cast a wider net looking at the problem and just gravitate to her? Did you find her first, or how was that the epicenter of the film?
Well, it was fortuitous. I reached out to a family friend, who was actually the mother of a girl I went to elementary school with, Muffy Meyer, and I've known her my whole life, and she's a documentary filmmaker. So I, being a first-time documentary filmmaker, was looking for just general advice and feedback on this concept, and met with her, and she was supportive of the idea, and also said that she happened to have a very good friend in Georgia who was doing a lot of this dog rescue that I was talking about. So she connected me with Monda. And once I met Monda, we actually met first in San Francisco at an airport bar. Then she invited me down. So Christina and I went down for about a week to kind of see what was going on down there. And it became clear very quickly that our whole story was there. I mean, Monda is, like I said, has gone through many, I think, aspects of dog rescue. So I think you got to see kind of a comprehensive look about from government to spay neuter to dealing with different situations on her own. But the number of women in that area, and she's at what they call the tri-state, which is Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. They all come together in right near where Monda lives. So there were so many shelters, rescuers, spay neuter groups in a very active network in that area. And we met more people in that first trip than we could even include in the film. So we decided to spend our time there and spent, I don't know, Monda, 2 years kind of on and off coming back. We just kept coming back. Yeah. So that became our world.
Monda, you mentioned that you had a couple cats on your last trip from a feral colony. Full disclosure, we don't have dogs in our house, not because we don't love dogs. It's because we do not have a dog lifestyle, and we think that's mean for people that don't have dog lifestyles to own dogs. So we have cats. And we're actually the people in the neighborhood that we've become the kitten people. Occasionally when people find the kittens, they come to our house because our kid worked at a rescue.
Oh, great.
And is now a vet tech. But yeah,
Oh, wow.
when the rescue went, so it was like, yeah, we know where to go. So we just kind of became that focal point. Never to your degree.
You're the magnet.
We've done a couple of handfuls of cute little adorable fuzzballs with we call them little death blossoms because little kittens are just all teeth and claws. Is it easier to get people to get into the spay neuter effort, which is important for cats and dogs? Is it easier to get them into dogs than cats? I mean, have you noticed a difference in the owners, I guess?
No, but first of all, don't discount what you're doing, because if everybody would do their little part, it becomes huge. As far as dogs and cats, they live differently than dogs. They can function a whole lot different than dogs can. If you put dogs outside, chances are good, they can't find food.
Right.
They become really sick. There's just a lot of things that happen to dogs that don't happen to cats. Now cats need to be cared for as well, but they can make it on their own a whole lot easier than a dog can. And so they find themselves, if they're let out in a field, they'll go out and hunt, things to eat, and they have a better chance at survival than dogs do. So they wind up going more undetected, I should say, as dogs do, and they just continue to have kittens, and
yes,
they can go into a heat cycle every 3 months. And so they have there's a lot more kittens than there are dogs. And
we've heard the phrase, it's kitten season, a lot at this house.
Yes. So there's feral colonies. There's feral colonies all over the place. And so you just have to tackle them, because, and it's like a never ending thing too, because how do you get them all? We actually tip their ears. We have the vet cut their ears. Yep. So that whenever we do trap them, the next time we see that same cat in a trap, we see its ears tipped so we can let it out, and it saves that useless trip to the vet.
Yep.
And you just keep trapping in an area and trapping until everyone you trap, when you go back that next morning, they'll have those little pointed ears.
Yeah, right. A lot of vets are now, they're like tattooing the cat on the abdomen where they can, but it's like, you can't see that from across or, in a trap. So people might think it's mean to crop that ear a little bit, but I think it's not a bad choice. That's me.
We have the dogs tattooed now too. All spay neuter clinic. I think pretty much all low cost spay neuter clinics, they're tattooing everything. Right.
And probably because of the cruelty aspect of it, of tipping the ear. Yeah. You briefly mentioned in the documentary puppy mills. It wouldn't seem to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that puppy mills are a part of the problem that you, Monda, deal with specifically, which is the street dogs.
Let me tell you. Oh yes, I deal with the puppy mills.
I'm sure you do.
Because a lot of these dogs that wind up on the streets are the result of a puppy mill. Just this week, a friend of mine in a neighboring county went and picked up 5 Shih Tzu, purebred Shih Tzu dogs, and we know they came from a puppy mill, and they're like they're estimated to be 6 to 8 years old, so their breeding period is pretty much, you know, over. The female dogs have been bred and bred and bred. You know, the vets can look at them and tell that they hadn't been groomed. Vet received no vet care, matted to the point that their skin was bleeding. And I'm sorry, I said 5. There were 7 of them. There were 7 of them. Sorry, there were 7 of them. And so, so we wind up with a lot of purebred dogs in shelters and on the streets, and that's coming from those puppy mills, because these people are using these animals for their living, and then when they're useless, that what they consider useless, you know, because they can't produce any more puppies, they just throw them out on the street. So yeah, puppy mills are yeah, we all kind of deal with that.
So you have to deal with the fallout. You don't necessarily deal with the puppy mills. If it became an issue, would you be, I mean, are you already involved in the shut down the puppy mill type?
Oh, you better
active, as opposed to just general?
Well, let me tell you what's happened here. It's become people like me are so down on these puppy mills, and we've brought a lot of attention to them, that now most of them are trying to do it undercover, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're doing it in their we call it backyard breeding. They're hiding them, and so they're getting more sophisticated about it. You know, you don't ride down the road and see all these crates in the front yard and stuff like that. They've got them in the backyard now, trying to hide them.
Oh, sometimes people disappoint me. Well, Monda, I appreciate everything you do. I know I'm coming up on my time, so I want to ask Samantha one more question. The film was crowdfunded, Indiegogo. How were you like a novice to that funding stream idea going into the film as well? Was it easy? Was it hard to make your targets? How much support did you, and were you surprised by the amount of support you got for this project?
We raised $15,000 on Indiegogo from 82 donors, and we were really thrilled with that kind of support. I think for first-time filmmakers, it's hard to get funding, and we at that point had been down, so we had some footage and put together a reel. And I think people were really inspired by the women. I think that was what got, I don't think it was at all about us. I think it was, we went on that research trip. We took some footage, put together a short little video that we put up. And I think people knew that these were women who were working really hard and not getting the kind of attention that they deserved for all the work that they were doing. So I think that they saw that there was a really positive story here of collaboration and effort, and that I think is what resonated with our supporters, and I think that was what they were getting behind.
Well, I'm glad they did. I'm glad the movie's out. Free Puppies releases on video on demand like iTunes and Amazon on the 13th of this month. I recommend people watch it. I'll say it, adopt, don't shop.
That's right.
The best animals you'll ever get are from a shelter somewhere, because they will love you forever and ever for that. So, Samantha and Monda, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're doing this all day, so try to take a break, get something to drink, stretch your legs. And I appreciate you taking the time. Samantha, I hope we see something else coming forward out of you, whether it's a nonfiction item or a fiction item. We'll have to see which way you want to go.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. I appreciate it, ladies. Keep doing good.